An old wizard was shocked by who stood outside his cottage, but even more surprising was the reason why they had come. There, pounding at his door, was a group of 6 strangers. Behind them, a burning hot air balloon. "Dear wizard," they cried, "please come quickly." "Yes," the wizard muttered, his eyebrows raised high. He quickly discovered that the group, which contained a baker, blacksmith, weaver, carpenter, miller, and fisherman, had come just to see him. But what could they possibly want from the old wizard? It turned out they traveled from the village on the other side of the forbidden forest. They had come for one very specific power that the wizard possessed. You see, the village was in dire trouble because each of the craftsmen had run out of resources, and the forbidden forest was blocking their path to more resources. Now their hot air balloon was torching the wizard's petunias. The wizard scratched his head. "Why fly when you could just walk through the forest?" "Easy for a wizard to say," the blacksmith scoffed, "because the forest is forbidden for us mortals." "I see," the wizard nodded. "So I suppose you'd like me to use my powers to lift the forest's curse?" The group nodded intensely. "Very well," the wizard grinned, "but only on one deal-breaking condition." Given the damage done to his petunias, the wizard thought it fair for the group to build him a hot air balloon so he could traverse over the mountain to the nearest florist for replacement petunia bulbs. But if they failed, he had another plan in store for them. In the meantime, he would temporarily lift the forbidden forest's curse until nightfall so they could gather the necessary materials. "I'm not going in there regardless," the weaver protested. "We all know the story of Peter the Potter, who ventured in there long ago, never to be seen again." "Ah, yes," the wizard chuckled. "The old Peter the Potter fable. You have my word that your fate will be far different than his." And so, with great reluctance, unsure if they would succeed, the group ventured into the forest's unknown expanses. But to their surprise, the wizard's powers turned the forest into a peaceful haven. It wasn't long until the group had assembled exactly what they needed to build a sturdy hot air balloon. But the wizard had one more trick up his sleeve. To the entire group's dismay, the wizard was nowhere to be found upon their return to his cottage. "Perhaps he's just waiting for us to assemble the hot air balloon," the carpenter suggested, and so assemble they did. But the wizard still did not return, and like clockwork, nightfall had come. Still no wizard. Then, out of nowhere, a mysterious whistling seeped through the still night air. To everyone's dismay, it was coming from the forbidden forest. "It's him! It must be him!" the miller declared, eyes as wide as could be. After much deliberation, the group made a daring decision to venture into the forbidden forest at night without the protection of the wizard's power. Sure enough, on a magic stump sat the wizard. In his hands, a nearly complete pottery bowl made from clay. "Enough with the tricks, dear wizard," the blacksmith hollered. "We've done as you've asked. Now please lift the forest's curse once and for all." "I would," the wizard grinned. "But the truth is, I'm not a wizard at all." Gasps rung out from the group by what came next. "My real name is Peter," he continued, "or Peter the Potter as folklore would have it. But unlike the stories you've been told, I didn't meet some untimely end in the so-called Forbidden Forest. What I did meet, however, was freedom. Freedom from my own limiting belief that the world on the other side of this forest was out of reach." "But what about the curse?" the fisherman cried. "You had lifted it just earlier today, in fact." "I did nothing of the sort," Peter smiled. "But I am the reason why you're here. You see, I had sent my friends to take your resources, including a gnome, witch, fairy, jellyfish, beaver, and magic stump, and it was to teach you this lesson right here. In life, we all face a forbidden forest of our own at one point or another. The question is, will you steer clear of it, letting it keep you from a better life? Or will you charge into that forest with reckless abandon to discover that it was never really forbidden at all?"